Hey guys, Gary again here, pastor of Redeemer Church in Titusville, and it is Good Friday, and this is our devotional for Good Friday. I'm so glad you've chosen to spend a few moments with us today. Of course, Good Friday holds very important and powerful significance in the lives of all of those who love Jesus, who know Him, who have been bought by Him, redeemed by Him, and now seek to serve Him. And just to get our hearts around the significance of this day, we might remember that almost 2,000 years ago, Jesus was falsely accused by the religious establishment of the day. He stood in front of a mock trial of the religious establishment. They found him guilty, though he was guilty of nothing. And then he was handed over, of course, to Pontius Pilate and the Romans and delivered over to be crucified. And so in John chapter 19, he records for us the last few moments of Jesus' life as he's there on the cross. And he has some words there at the end of his life that I think are very powerful and appropriate for today. Beginning in verse 28 of chapter 19, he says, "After this, Jesus, knowing that all was now finished, said, to fulfill the scripture, Jesus said, I thirst. A jar full of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of the sour wine on a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, It is finished. And he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit." Just a reflection or two to wrap our heads and our hearts around this whole episode. You know, many comparisons through the ages have been made between King David and his greater son, Jesus. For example, Psalm 69 tells us of a time when David had been betrayed by those closest to him. Enemies sought his life, and so there in that psalm he cries out to God for deliverance. And he writes there, beginning in verse 1, he says, "Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in deep mire where there is no foothold. I have come into deep waters, and the flood sweeps over me. I am weary with my crying out. My throat is parched. My eyes grow dim with waiting for my God." And then he goes on in verse 21 to say this, "They gave me poison for my food, and for my thirst they gave me sour wine to drink." Sounds familiar, doesn't it? This is what Jesus was referring to in John chapter 19. Bitter betrayal is what David experienced. It was to him poisoned food and sour drink. No wonder David thirsted. Jesus, too, suffered that same betrayal. No wonder, too, that he thirsted. Experiencing that same kind of betrayal from his friends, all who left him, even heaven was silent to his cries, and yet Jesus still cries out, "I thirst." And although drink was offered him, he took it not. And I like what one commentator said. He said that Jesus didn't drink it. He wanted nothing to impair his senses those last few sacrificial moments of his life. He wanted to feel the full weight and measure of God's wrath. You know, I think it's fair to say that we're all hungry and we're all thirsty for something. We're never truly satisfied, and so we go searching for those things that we think are going to curb our appetites or slake our thirst. For some, it's money. We chase the almighty dollar, and we think that if we just get enough of it, then we'll finally be satisfied. Some of us chase power. We want to be the top dog in our organization or in our community. And so we fight and we claw to hold on to whatever power that we get, thinking that if we have power and if we can wield it, then we'll finally be somebody. We'll finally have a name for ourselves. Some of us chase relationships. We go from one man or one woman to another, thinking that if we find that one person that gets us, that makes our lives begin to click, then we will have arrived. And we'll have all we need. But you know what I've discovered in my 50 plus years now? The fact of the matter is I'm just simply addicted to more. More money, more power, more relationships, more love. I just want more. And even when I get a small taste of it, you know what? I'm still left hungry. And I'm still left thirsty. Maybe you can relate. Friends, Jesus became thirsty. From the cross, Jesus experienced the isolation of being so completely alone, so completely spent, so completely hungry and thirsty for God to intervene and spare him of his agony, and he got nothing. Not 1 ounce of sympathy. Why? You see, Jesus experienced the emptiness of betrayal so that he could fill you and me to overflowing. That's what he tells the Samaritan woman back in John chapter 4, that if she would just come to him, that she would never be thirsty again and she would never be hungry again. Even the prophet Isaiah looks at this and says the same sort of thing. Listen to what he says in Isaiah 55. Come, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come. Buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Why do you spend your money for that which is not food or not bread, and your labor for that which does not satisfy? Listen diligently to me, Isaiah says, and eat what is good, and delight yourself in rich food. You know, today as we remember Good Friday, as we remember those last few moments of Jesus' life, when we remember that he thirsts, let's remember that he became thirsty for us so that he could fill us with every good thing, so that we could delight ourselves in him with the richest of food. Let's celebrate that today. Let's celebrate Jesus and his thirsting for us to be in his kingdom. I love you guys. I hope you have a great Good Friday, and I hope you'll come back on Sunday and join us for a great Easter celebration. We love you, we miss you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.